Welcome, everybody, to our YouTube channel, Money Strong, with me, Brett Fry. I'm a wealth advisor at Forterra Wealth Management. And again, to all of our young professionals out there, last time we recorded part one, the value of starting early. Our tip number one was getting going, saving for those retirement goals or other goals for that matter as soon as possible. Today, we're going to cover part two, tip number two to that, and kind of putting the two together as well. But I wanted to rehash real quick the reality of retirement goals. So in order to be able to spend $100,000 a year during retirement, how much do you need to have saved up at age 65? And again, for those of you that watched our previous video, that number comes up to a little over 1.6 million. So tip number one was get going on that saving as early as possible. So in our last video, we kind of showed this in a little different way. So this time I kind of wanted to show it in a little bit different of a way, just to kind of give you two ways of looking at what a difference it makes, to start earlier rather than later. So what we did here was assume that here in gold, somebody starts saving at age 30 versus in green, someone who starts saving at age 40. What a difference that first 10 years makes. So the person who started saving in their 401k, we assume $15,000 a year. So between as much as you're putting in, your employer matches, any profit sharing contributions, assuming all in all 15,000 makes it into that 401k. After 10 years, that person would have 245,000, whereas the person just starting, 10 years later only has their $15,000 in contributions plus a little bit of return for the year. You can see, by the time you reach age 50, by the time you reach age 60, 20 years later, it's almost, 3 times as much. But by the time you reach age 65, starting that 10 years earlier, you far exceeded your goal. So this person who started, that 10 years earlier, started at age 30, they well exceeded their goal. Person that started 10 years later probably have a little bit of work to do at the very end. So lesson here is really the earlier you can start, starting 10 years ahead of time, starting earlier the better. But also what I want you guys to take away from this is don't think that you're too far gone, that I can't make up lost ground, because you can. The lesson here is starting today, starting now versus starting 10 years in the future, because people say it all the time, I'll get to it later, but really in reality later never comes. So start early, start now. Make sure you're putting back as much as you can earlier on. So tip number two, what we want to tell people is have a plan, design a portfolio for yourself, pick some investments, and stick with it over the long term. And really, a lot of you are probably wondering, okay, well, how do I design an investment portfolio? And that's really where we come in. So don't be afraid to get us involved. If that's something you're thinking about doing and taking that next step, certainly reach out to us. We're here to help as well. So what I wanted to do is show kind of a more realistic expectation of putting, tip number one of starting early, and tip number two, having a plan, sticking with it, making sure you're sticking to that investment portfolio. Let's put these two together in a very realistic scenario. So most of you who have started your careers out, maybe you're 10 years into your career, starting out at age 22, 23 years old, getting that first job, you've probably seen your income grow a lot. So you can probably, save more, 10 years into your career, certainly than you can, day one, walking out of the door, graduating and starting that first job. So what we wanted to do here was, assuming that you start out with, $30,000, maybe you got some graduation money, or maybe you've saved up a little bit yourself, starting out with $30,000, contributing $1,500 a year towards your retirement, for the first 10 years here. You can see that 30,000 plus your contributions, again, sticking to that plan, sticking to those investments, grows to almost 350,000. Let's take it over the next 5 years. Maybe, you've reached 10 years into your career. Maybe you increase those contributions from $1,500 a month to $2,500 a month. Again, putting that back towards your retirement, putting that back towards your other goals. That $350,000 over the next 5 years, again, sticking to it, sticking to your investment plan. that 350 grows to 650,000. Over the next 10 years, you're making even a little more money. So years 16 through 20, after 20 years of sticking to it and upping those contributions a little bit, maybe you're contributing $3,000 a month now. Later on in your career, that's growing to, over 1.1 million. Then after 25 years of sticking to it, if you started at age 25, now you're 50 years old, you got 1.7 million. You've already made your retirement goal, and you're not even to age 65 yet. So really, lesson here is sticking to your plan, starting as early as possible, creating and designing that portfolio, and sticking to it over the long term, making sure you keep investing and plowing money into those investments. So again, here's my contact information. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, send me an email, give us a call, visit our website, drop us a note. Also follow us on social media. We have a lot more insights to offer you guys. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, of course, the YouTube channel here. So stay tuned. We're going to follow this up with more insights, everything from how do I save for my kids' college to some investment basics. So again, we're here for you. We're here as a sounding board for you. Don't be a stranger. Drop us a note, and we'll see you soon.